honestly, if you're joining this conversation, this digital event, this webinar, whatever you want to call it, you have joined one of the most interesting conversations we're going to have, because we're going to hear from the people we're talking about building trust with a skeptical generation. We have three of those skeptics on the call, and we're going to dig in with them, right? So my name is Alex Kosician. I'm the co-founder, CEO here at Sales Boomerang. You all know and love Kristen Massarelli. She's the VP of Sales and in financial services over at experience.com, which I love the rebrand. I love that you guys went to experience.com, because that is what you are creating. And that is so important to the skeptics that we have on this call. And you guys are all about to find out how and why they're skeptical. So let's jump right into it and start talking about some questions. These questions, Kristen, we're going to throw right to a panel that all seems to be your neighbors. Everyone here is on the West Coast, but let's throw these questions out at you guys. And, Kristen, you can call on people, or we can let them answer in term. So,
yeah, and for context here,
yeah, please.
We've brought in panelists on this webinar. We'd like to do potentially a series of additional panelists, but in this webinar, we have three people who have all started the home buying process, explored it, and then decided to pull back, at least momentarily. And so we're getting people early in the process, still thinking about it, still wanting that, have explored it a little bit. On future webinars, we'd like to have one where we are talking to people who are in the process of buying right now, and then potentially another one who with people who recently bought. So if you guys are interested in that, we'd love to hear from you, and we can continue that series. So these panelists are carefully chosen with that kind of mentality in mind.
I love that clarity, by the way. And listen, respond to Kristen. If you guys love that, we're going to be doing a series like that. Let us know in chat that you guys think it's a great idea, and we'll see you on the next ones. Go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we wanted to hear from you guys, Eric, Gabe, and Jules, on what have been some of your biggest concerns about the home buying process, or your biggest concerns about being a homeowner in general. And again, this is not something we have prepared you for. We want you to be totally honest and just share, what your experience has been or your thoughts on the process. So let's kick it off with, if anyone has something right away, but I'll pass it to Eric. Yes.
Yeah. So number one, biggest concern, we're all from Los Angeles, so I think it's no surprise that price is like extremely high for the square footage and the quality of the home. The areas that people typically want to live in, I feel like, are super saturated. But like, all things considered, for me, price is just like insanely high. And that is always like the thing that I'm battling with. For number two, biggest concern about being a homeowner, I would say, to be honest, like for me in my situation, like I'm an extremely like career focused person. It's been like kind of like my primary focus for the last, I don't know, like my adult life. And having a home, like getting a home, basically if I get it brand new, like really, really nice, like everything's pretty much finished, so to speak, that's great, but it's really expensive, so I can't do that. So my next option is buy something cheaper that's a fixer upper. But the amount of available time that I have, or at least I think that I have, doesn't provide me with enough time to like actually do construction and all this stuff. That would like, the home would be basically kick my ass. And that's my biggest concern, is like, I can't do something expensive, but I can't do something really cheap because I don't have the time to fix it up and work on it. So
wow,
that's my piece.
Yeah, and for context, I think across the country, we talk about affordability being a huge challenge, and definitely when we did a NextGen homebuyer report, we did a study of 3,000 plus NextGen homebuyers, and affordability was the number one challenge. So I think that, and that was, pulled across the country. But I think here in particular, I recently went through that process about a year ago, and I was putting offers on places that had like 85 offers on the same home.
Oh, yeah.
It was wild. And it's, yeah, so that I think makes it very complex. And I know Gabe and Jules, you guys have thoughts on this. So Gabe, I'll pass it to you, or Jules, you want to go next?
Doesn't matter. Cool. Yeah, I think that we're all going to have similar resounding feedback, which is it's the affordability and the competition. And I know that like, I just feel like from talking with you, Kristen, I feel like there are like opportunities out there to make things more affordable, but I just don't really know how to do it. I don't have like the resources seem like too much work. And going back to like being super work oriented, I think that's very common in LA. And so same thing with like a renovation. It seems like that's more risky actually to me because I don't know what the costs of all the renovating would be. And so you're kind of like going into this unknown financial tunnel, potentially. So I would always like look for something that is ready to move in. And those things are, as Eric said, like much more expensive. And as Kristen said, are going to have like a ton of offers. They're going to go above the asking price every time. And you have to be ready to buy at that moment. And I also have friends who just bought a place near where I rent. And like the competition was crazy. It went back and forth. They had to basically like offer almost all cash down. So it just kind of keeps me renting.
Interesting. And so I think, first of all, what amazing feedback already. And it sounds like what you said, Jules, there's going to be similar answers from you guys on that piece of it. And it seems like price is a big driver. But I also like what you said, that if I knew there was a way to afford it, if there was programs and things that make it easy, if someone could just share with me that I can afford this and how I can afford this, it would be great. So everyone in the audience, if you're going to be talking to the next gen buyer, which they're right here, they don't just think about the tunnel that you are in. Like, this isn't the only loan that's available. What else is possible? Let's open up let's just get creative and listen to the next gen buyer, right? That's what it sounds like. Maybe there is something we can help with. Don't shut them out. Last year, if anyone was giving you trouble on the phone and is making the deal complicated, the lending industry said, I have 1,000 people ready to do a loan with me. I'm not going to take this complicated loan. I'm not going to answer these questions. It's too much. We need to stop thinking that way. It is important to answer questions. It's important to guide this audience into making a buying decision. So, Kristen, if you're on board with me on this, for Gabe, could we have him answer the second question? Like, what is your biggest concern about being a homeowner? Because it sounds like we're going to have similar answers for the first one, unless, Gabe, you have something way different. But do you mind going into the second question?
Yeah, totally. I was definitely gonna, ditto some of what was already said in terms of price. But I think like in terms of concerns about being a homeowner, something that comes up for me personally is that I live in right now, a big single family home with roommates that I really love a lot. And when I've looked at, homes that I would consider buying personally, since I'm single, don't have a partner, I most likely would take a down step from my current living conditions in terms of like just how nice it is. And I know that doesn't take into account like the idea of building equity and wealth in a home, but from just like a short-sighted standpoint, like that is something that comes up for me of like needing to sacrifice some of my quality of living in lieu of putting a bunch of work into something potentially, or I travel for work and like might not be able to be around all the time to deal with things that come up with the house.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And Gabe, I know you have thought about or explored a little bit about getting an investment property. What has held you back from moving forward in that direction? Like, what are your concerns?
I think kind of a couple things. One was just like kind of a buyer's paralysis of like having a bunch of choices. And I did look into like a couple turnkey, investment real estate companies that take care of a lot of the legwork, but I kept getting mixed messages on what the return on investment would look like and how kind of safe and secure that would be. And maybe ultimately though, it did come down to just all the steps involved in doing that. Like last year I started to go through the process of getting pre-approved for a loan. And this is obviously an anecdotal experience, but the loan officer I was working with just kind of like drifted out of touch and I stopped hearing back from him. And that was enough to just kind of like make me feel like, well, this wasn't something I was like really dead set on doing anyway. So I'll just put it off even more.
Hey, lending industry, you're listening. You're here listening to the audience. That's exactly to what was happening last year, right? We just talked about that. Hey, I'm busy. I'll get to you. And Gabe's like, not like, why isn't anyone taking care of me? Drifted away to focus on something else, and you got left behind. And that's not a good feeling. It worked out in your favor because you weren't even sure, right? But it's not fair. You should have at least had. And so listen up. Communication is very important to this audience, like very, very important to this audience. Communication, clear communication, good or bad. I believe, and tell me, we got this great panel of the next gen buyer, good or bad. Like, do you want to hear from your lender, or we'll just stick to lending right now. Do you want to hear from your lender on good or bad news? Like this, is that important to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Gabe?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that it's like you just said, just sort of basic communication on on a level of building trust was something that like I was kind of expecting almost, because I got off to a good foot with this particular loan officer and he seemed like very approachable. And then it just kind of felt like, I mean, like many things in life, people get busy, and that wasn't something necessarily that I fault him for, but like that was something that I did expect, was just like a little more like, okay, this is potential business. I don't know, a lot of money is involved in this, and it would be nice to just have like heard back more, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think this shows, I mean, if like Gabe has talked about how overwhelming this process can feel. And, you know, if you're really unsure and you're feeling uncertain whether this is going to be a good investment, and then you just don't hear back right away, or these little things can go a long way to making you feel like, you know what, maybe just not right now.
I love that. I love that. Well, why don't we go to the next section? We have a lot more questions for the panel. Before we get into some of these stats, the audience is really engaged. I love it. You guys are asking some great questions. So a quick yes and no answers from the panel for just a moment. Are you guys self-employed, and do you know your generation and the group and your influence, your sphere of influence, your peers? How many of them are self-employed, or how many of them? So real quick, we'll just go right down the line here. Eric, self-employed, or no?
I'm not.
How about you, Gabe?
I guess no.
Okay, so half and half. He's got his little projects he's working on, but not fully. I get it. Jules, how about you?
I'm fully
Self-employed?
Yeah.
Okay, so a third on the panel. Now let's go back down the panel for just a minute. So Dylan, based on your question, we're going to run this past the panel. Jules, do you have friends that are self-employed?
Yeah.
Gabe? Many. Eric?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, listen, audience, listen to this. If you're just joining, I see the numbers keep going up. You guys must be texting and emailing your friends to join the conversation. This is great. If you're just joining, we got a panel of next gen buyers in the industry, and they're telling us right here on the spot, unfiltered, how they feel about the home buying experience. And Dylan asked a great question. Is there a lot of entrepreneurs and self-employed people in this generation? The answer is yes, there is. And can you give them creative financing? Jules, this was your thing. You brought it up. We brought it full circle. The answer is yes. There's a lot of loans that can be done that aren't the typical loan. Get creative. So, audience, take note. I love to see this numbers keep going up. You guys are just texting your friends to come join. All right, let's do some facts. Let's talk about what is happening right now and do some facts. So, Kristen, give us some facts here.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a few of the insights that we gathered over. Again, we did a next gen homebuyer report in 2020 and 2021, gathering insights from over 3,000 next gen homebuyers who were either about to buy or recently bought. And here are a few of those stats. One was that in the mindset was a lot of distrust. We found that 2 in 3 next-gen homebuyers stated that lenders were not trustworthy or reliable, which I know is like, you know, a little bit of a punch sometimes to see that, but I think it's really important for these kinds of conversations as we talk about how to build trust through good communication, through, and honestly, I mean, for so many of us, when we start the process and we do feel very overwhelmed or we're uncertain about a lot of things, if you come in and you are able to build trust very quickly, you seem like a bright, shining light in a very dark and scary place. And so you're going to get loyalty and a lot of referrals. So the next
Love that.
stat, you can move to the next slide.
Yep. We have a voice activated system.
All right, here we go. Education. So education was a huge one. There's a lot of supporting data on this in the reports as well, if you're interested in taking a look at that. But 1 in 4 said that their biggest challenge while buying a home was a lack of understanding. This is from our 2021 report. And in 2020, we found that 1 in 5 said that they didn't understand any step in the home buying process.
Wow.
And, I mean, I've also anecdotally surveyed, or I've surveyed people in Harvard Business School and groups of people with all of the people on the panel list are extremely intelligent and successful people. And everyone talks about this kind of difficulty in navigating the process. So I think this is a big one that we need to keep in mind as you're thinking about how to better serve this audience.
Love it. Scary stats, but so important. So important.
Yeah. And here's that stat on 1 in 5 didn't understand any step. Another couple of big challenges, of course, you heard about the affordability challenge, but also qualifying for a mortgage was a huge fear that has come up in our data. And definitely, I've also interviewed a lot of people who talk about how and actually it's funny because I kind of did this when I started the home buying process this last time, is I felt uncertain over whether it was the right time to buy for me. I thought, okay, yeah, I have saved a down payment. And for a lot of people, they think, how much do I need to save? There's a huge amount of people, almost 50%, who said that they thought they had to put 20% in order to buy a home. And so there's a lot of information out there, but also a lot of people just think, I know it's expensive, so I probably can't do it. And so many people, when they actually start exploring it, they realize oh no, I could buy right now. Kind of depends on the market and how competitive that is. But there's definitely a big chunk of people who are just nervous about even starting the process.
And I think, Kristen, one of the things we should add to our series that we're going to be doing is those that are already in a home about refinancing, because you have this next gen buyer that bought their first home, may have been 27, 28 years old, whatever it is. And now they're in the home for a couple of years. Should they refinance? How do they know? Where's the trust there? Do they trust? Right. So guys, trust is going to be a big theme. We're going to talk about how to get ahead of those things and build trust with this next gen buyer. So, and next gen borrower in general. So it's very important that we may want to focus on that too. You're in a home, now what? Okay. How do you know you're doing the right next step? So let's keep going.
And then here's just a little bit of data on some of the hurdles that people cited as their hurdles to homeownership. I will say that this is surveyed at the beginning of 2021 and 2020. And I think now there's, again, as everyone has talked about in the market, a lot of it is around competition and affordability. But outside of that, we've got the myth around down payment, and we've got a lot of savings challenges, and then overall lack of confidence.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right,
Such great insights that you should have. Again, let's keep going with some. We're giving you guys, so just so you know, audience, we're giving you guys these stats and we're giving you this information. It is truly, let's just pull back the curtain. We are trying to scare you a little bit, trying to scare you into paying attention. Everybody needs to know something interesting about the word attention. The word tension is in the word attention. We need to create a little tension so you guys can understand what's happening, so you can pay attention to this audience that we're talking to right now. There needs to be this tension. You all need to know this. And we're no longer in the 3 years of the biggest boom. But let me tell you something. If we ever get back to that, we should learn, right? How we humans evolve, right? Everything that's living evolves, by the way, everything, right? And so how do we evolve that when we have this amazing boom, Gabe doesn't get left behind, right? Somebody's not like, oh, Gabe's just trying to get a small apartment, and you know what, and we'll get back to him when we get back to him because the doors are open and everyone's doing business. No, let's stop that. Implement technology, implement services like experience.com and Sales Boomerang, help people make great decisions and then listen to them, take care of them. Let's not have this situation happen again. Let's talk the numbers being slightly less scary and less painful to hear. If you're, I know we're leaving bruises on you guys right now, but this is important to be able to bring attention to this. All right, financial crisis. Let's go into that. Did we want to?
No, real
let's
quick, go back. I
Yeah.
did want to mention, because this is a really big one. And I even felt this concern whenever I started the process of buying a home a year ago. A lot of people said, 22% said that they were concerned their home would not be a good investment. And if you think about how many, millennials entered adulthood during or right after the financial crisis, and these types of events, and that one in particular, had a huge impact on the way that we view the housing market, and the way that we view the industry as well. So this plays into that concern over building trust and all of those components. But I think that building trust is going to require that you help people understand where they do get a return on their investment, where they are able to understand when it makes sense for them to buy a home, and for that to be a very honest and open conversation.
100%. So let me take this time for just a minute and explain something interesting. So the 22% concern of their home being a good investment. At Sales Boomerang, we're focused on grabbing a customer base and letting you, the lender, know that somebody in your customer base is ready to improve their current position. That could mean making their home a better investment, right? Insights. Why am I wearing a shirt that says financial friend? You want your bank to be your financial friend. I'm talking to you, the NextGen audience. Is that what you're looking for? Do you want your financial institution to be your friend, or do you want them to be a transaction, right? You can answer in chat, or as you can speak up. I believe, and from talking to groups, this audience also, you want a financial friend. And so how do you take wiseexperience.com and Sales Boomerang in this conversation? Experience.com gives the confidence for people to look at great reviews and say, you know what? I'm seeing 1,000 amazing reviews. I at least know people care and like to work with this group. So let me start there. And then once they come to you, how are you going to prove to them that you're going to be there for them? That's where Sales Boomerang comes in. The proof is in giving great insights to your customers and not letting them stumble into lessons. Come on, we've learned enough over time. Let's give this new generation the benefit of going, hey, we've kind of seen this song and dance before. I have a better vehicle for you right now, but not waiting for them to discover they had a better vehicle option, financial vehicle option 2 years ago, and nobody ever contacted them about it. The financial friend, your lender, should be reaching out and saying, look, here's a better opportunity to actually bring more value to your home. Let's take advantage of this rate. Let's take advantage of your equity. Let's do these things, but we can't let this generation stumble into it too late. Okay. It's our responsibility to be there for them early. Let's move to the next slide. But that's why we're here. That's why Kristen is here. That's why I'm here, to let you guys know that this is what this audience really, really needs and actually wants.
And before I say the last slide here, I do think it's important that we understand that we don't think about our finances always in a rational context. Like we can't separate our emotions from our logic a lot of times when we're making these decisions. And that's really important that we think about it in that way, because even for me, I grew up in the industry in a lot of ways. My dad was in the business. I have created financial literacy content for 10 years at Cultural Outreach. And yet when I started to buy a home, it took me a long time to actually, I created my own spreadsheets, did so many different rent versus zone analysis, used Mortgage Coach. And it took a long time for me to be able to recognize, okay, yeah, the numbers are right, that this is going to be a good financial decision for myself. But I just had a lot of anxiety coming into it. So again, just want to recognize that it's not always, these are real feelings that people are dealing with as they begin making the biggest financial decision of their lives.
For sure.
And then the last slide here is just to recognize that COVID-19 did have a negative impact for a lot of people. It really hit hard for single, but also women in general and communities of color. And so just recognizing that this, and in general, 43% across all of the millennial generation said that this had a negative impact.
Wow. Wow, it's huge.
Could I just jump in and say something really quick?
Yes,
please.
Just what you just said about is this personally, a good financial decision for me? That was something that has come up a lot, since I feel like the overwhelming narrative I've heard in the housing industry is everyone can get a home, you can do it, which I'm sure is true to a large extent, but my skeptical self hears that and is like, but I live in Los Angeles, and that's, it's got to be different than Tulsa, Oklahoma, or, someplace else. And so I felt like I would have loved to have seen more information about like my current situation and like the housing market where I'm in specifically. And even if it is just the same facts, that was something that I felt like confused and skeptical about.
That's exactly how I felt, as you know. And I think we asked people what would have made your experience better, and in this last report that we did, and the number one responses were, one was transparent communication, and the other was personalization. And so to your point of like, that's exactly how I felt. I thought, yeah, it must be different for me. And having someone actually be able to guide you through, not just with the numbers, but also being able to say, okay, yeah, and I know you travel a lot, so here's how a lot of people, deal with some of the issues that come up around homeownership, and just being able to provide that kind of advice, I think is really important. So.
I love that. I love that. And listen, so again, the numbers keep growing of people attending, everyone in attendance. If you want your peers to hear what we're about to ask, because this is key. Okay, the next question for the panel, we're going to hear from everyone, is going to really dictate how this audience makes decisions. So text, email, call your friends, send them the link, have them jump on. Let's start. Kristen, do you mind if I just start and I'll call on the audience? Eric, I'm going to start with you. How do you choose who to work with, lender, realtor, when it comes to purchasing a home? How do you choose?
I just need to feel really comfortable and that I can trust the person. Like the realtor that I'd worked with before this was basically, or am kind of still talking to, basically she came as a personal recommendation from a very good friend of mine. She was super awesome. Like right away, she was very like tech savvy, very communication savvy. Like she wanted to meet up in person. We had really good talks. She was very much at our speed in terms of understanding our wants and needs, and like really easy to talk to. And then she worked with a lender that was equally informative. Like basically she said, hey, come to a workshop. We're going to teach you all about this. I was in a small room with like 8 people, and it was extremely educational, and everybody was very like forthcoming with information, educational. It was like a really fun learning environment. And they pretty much demystified the whole process and made me feel extremely like confident and cleared up all these questions. And that for me built a whole lot of trust. And so for me, it just comes down to like personal like investment and communication and stuff like that, because I don't want to feel like another number or some, you know what I mean? Like even like when you work with like a mechanic or something like that, it's like you don't want to go in there and take your car in and then have them just be like whatever about you. You want them to sort of talk you through everything and make you understand exactly the ins and outs of your car, and then be like, feel like an honest connection there. So for me, it just came like through personability, being personable, and then educational.
All right. So listen up. This is an incredible answer. Eric, thank you so much for that. We're going to move down the panel here, but let's highlight something. For Eric, it was important. He used the T word again, trust. He's like, for me to have trust, this person needed to be personable. They invited me out to a location with other people, explained things, demystified. I love that word, demystified the experience. The mechanic that tells you everything they're going to do and why demystifies why they're under the hood. They don't just change something, go, I got to charge you for it because I saw it later when I started working on it. No, demystify the experience, gain trust, be personable. What a great idea. Bring people together, bring groups. It's a memorable experience. Do some education for more than one person that you're looking to work with on the lending and realtor side. Beautiful, just pure gold. Let's move on. Jules, I know you got somebody in front of you there. I see you waving, or you got a fly in front of you. I can't tell. Jules, tell us, how do you choose who to work with?
I haven't gotten too far in that process as far as picking a realtor, but like, actually, there is one realtor that in my mind I might reach out to when the time comes. And simply, this person had a really strong Instagram page with listings that I was really attracted to. So I followed, wow. And then that realtor DM'd me like that he was having a webinar on like a Saturday at 10 a.m. where he just talked about the market. And so I've joined a couple of those, and it's nice because it's casual. I'm kind of getting to know like an understanding of what he knows. And so I'm learning, but I don't feel any pressure individually because I'm just on this webinar with a bunch of interested home buyers. So
Yeah.
like maybe when the time comes, I could reach out to him. I think like having a friend is always wonderful, but if you don't, I think that his approach worked for me.
Yeah, that's okay. Is anyone seeing a theme? I'm seeing a theme here. This is fantastic. And lenders, you can do this too. So what we heard from Eric and now we heard from Jules, they brought people together for information, for demystifying the process and being in a group of peers that are going to ask questions that are going to be relevant to those people that may not be confident in asking those questions. And when you're spending time one-on-one and you're selling, trust me right now, the defense goes up. When you start to sell, they stop to listen. When you bring people together, and check out the amazing tip Jules gave you, start a social media presence, get out there, show your heart on your social media presence, invite people for information, bring groups together physically or digitally, and start conversations, not sales pitches. Listen to what we're saying. Do not bring people together to sell them on using you for your service. That's not what you're there for. You're there to educate the next generation. Give them reasons to trust us. All right, Jules, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Gabe, what do you got?
Yeah, I feel like definitely word of mouth. Like I don't really choose any kind of new person I'm working with in my life if they don't have a recommendation from someone. So that's like the number one thing for
Okay.
me. I feel like
Shout out experience.com.
someone who's vetted.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, honestly, like what you just said resonated a ton about the selling. Like when I catch wind of that, of someone like trying to convince me of something instead of presenting information, it's maybe to a fault, but it's off-putting. It's like that kind of makes me disengage,
Yes.
kind of subconsciously. So I think just like someone who is really able to present information with a low pressure environment would be the most attractive thing to me.
Fantastic. I love that you all had three different answers that all kind of weave together. So Gabe is saying, look, I need you to be referred from someone. So guys, everyone on the call, experience.com. If you're on this call and you're not using experience.com, look, we don't try to do this as a sales pitch. This is more of putting things in your hands that will help you help the industry and the customers of this industry. Experience.com is a must-have in your arsenal of tech stack, because Gabe just said he's not even going to talk to you unless you've been referred. And sometimes that referral may come as a physical referral. Hey, Gabe, I got somebody for you to meet. Or it may come from a digital referral with a wonderful, wonderful 5-star review for someone. And it's like, okay, you have 1,000 5-star reviews. I think that's worth a call. So listen. And then the best thing that Gabe said, the most powerful thing that Gabe said, when it starts to feel like you're pushing me in a direction, I disconnect. I will smile in your face. I will say thank you for everything, and I will disengage as soon as I can. And so the idea is options. Mr. or Mrs. Borrower, here are your options. Both of these would work. I've done more of these in the last 3 months than these. Which one resonates with you? Where do you have questions? I have questions about this one. Okay, fantastic. Let me answer those questions and do it in a way that's very easy. You had mentioned Mortgage Coach, Kristen. Highly recommended. You want another must-have tool in your tech stack? Mortgage Coach. Everyone on this call, on the panel, would greatly appreciate a visual demonstration of which loan is better than the other and what is the cost of doing nothing. What is the cost of staying in my rental property? There is a cost sometimes, and you need to see that, but you don't need to be sold that. You need to see it and make your own decision. So panel, amazing answers. And everyone listening, that's gold. I hope you all wrote it down, took note. All right. Who influences the next gen buyer?
So 98% said that they turn to online resources, which I think is no surprise. After they go through the process, they say that their real estate agent was typically their most influential source going through the process. I would hope that they would have an experience of saying that their loan officer was also one of their greatest sources of information and guidance. but we did find that only 52% said that they had a great experience with their loan officer. So this is a huge area of growth that I think that we can continue to expand in. But I think the rest of the data, you can go to the next slide. And there are a couple points I wanted to make that were completely aligned with what we've just heard from the panelists. One was online reviews are very important across the board. You can move to the next slide. 94% said that they wanted to, that reviews were important when it came to finding a loan officer. And I mean, I can't even comprehend what 6% said it wasn't important. It is important to everybody to be able to have that third-party validation and hear from people that, okay, yeah, my friend said this was good, but also these other people that I don't even know said that this person was good. That's really important. Oh, and I tried to throw in another slide here, but I did want to mention that we also found that we asked a question of when you want to learn more about personal finance, where do you go? And number one by far was Google, and social media was third on that list. So just to reiterate again, what everyone has talked about, people do try to go to sources where they're going to feel empowered with information without the pressure. And so as providers, if you can set up that space as something where this is a comfortable space for people to come and learn, they're not going to feel sold to right away, but you can also build the relationship through things like social media and information online. That's going to be a really important way to capture this audience.
Fantastic. I love those insights. Love those stats. Great things to remember, guys. Okay. This is going to be one of my favorite conversations because this comes back to information without selling, guiding, being the bumpers on the bowling alley and not being the ball or the arm throwing the ball, right? You guys are rolling down the bowling alley, and the financial industry can either let you get down the path and go into the gutter and fall off, or great guides do not allow that to happen. You're going to get down this path and you're going to get to the end, and it's going to be a great experience. You're going to hit some pins along the way for a good reason, right? You're going to knock down these pins. So be the bumpers. Don't be the decision maker. Don't be the arm for this next generation. Just let them go down and guide them along the way. Just like Gabe said, influence, not sell, right? Give advice. So right back to this question, and this is a powerful one. So again, take note. How are you consuming information related to personal finance and home purchasing? How are you guys consuming this? Let's start this time with Gabe, and we'll go the other way. Jules, you'll be right in the middle here. So Gabe.
I guess the biggest thing for me in the past year was I met with like a financial advisor for the first time really in my life to just kind of look at this home buying process amongst other things. So besides that, like talking to friends, I think is like the biggest influence for me. Again, like I think I have this belief that, you know, people who understand me and are having a shared life experience are great sounding boards for information. But also this financial advisor, it was through the Financial Gym, which is like an a la carte financial advising company, I guess. Those were the two ways. And I guess like also, you know, reading.
Did you trust a financial advisor?
Yes, I did. Yeah, he was very trustworthy. It did, I think, end up in a place of like, you know, I was presented with information and then the ball was in my court in terms of like making those decisions, which I think.
And that's what you like, right?
Well, that is what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was a really important step for me to take like a bird's eye view look at my finances before approaching a big purchase like this.
So Gabe, this is fantastic. And this gives me a chance. And you see the shirt I'm wearing. I'm about to dive into why I'm wearing the shirt a little bit more. It's important because, and I'm going to ask everyone this question. So here you are, influence from online reviews, trust, you get some recommendations. Fantastic. You're starting to choose a path. And now you're information gathering. The reason I wear this shirt that says Financial Friends, I didn't show you the bottom of the shirt. I only showed you the top section. And then Gabe, I got a question for you. Financial friend with benefits. Now, what does that mean? Not the kind of benefits everyone's thinking. Get your head out of the gutter, everybody. We're talking about financial benefits, okay? Financial friend with financial benefits. What is the benefit? So here's my question to you then, Gabe. Would you appreciate your lending institution, the financial arm that you're going to be working with, to give you advice on what your next best step might be? Or, hey, here's your options in before you make a decision. Would that be helpful? Would you consider that a friend?
Yeah, definitely. If that person understood my situation, if it went beyond just like a surface level interaction and there
Yeah.
was knowledge sharing about my financial situation, my geographical situation, then totally.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That helps build the T word, guys. Trust. That helps build trust. When you can give Gabe insights to Gabe and then just leave the ball in his court and let Gabe throw the ball back to you with a question, and then you pass it back to him with an answer without, hey, I think you should do this because my brother did this and my sister did this and you should do this and you should really do this. Gabe doesn't want to hear that. He wants to be like, let me make a decision and ask a question, and then I'll move forward. So pay attention. It's very important to this audience. Jules, how are you consuming information related to personal finance?
I probably need more resources on information related to personal finance. I currently I use apps like Redfin, Zillow, and I crunch numbers in there trying to like gauge what's possible and what's not possible. And then I'm like, okay, close that and go to bed. And I the realtor I told you about earlier did provide information that's kind of like helped me realize that that's not like an absolute and that there are alternatives, but that's just really as far as I know. And then other than that, as Gabe said, friends, family, although like my trust level even in family isn't super high because they're not in LA, so like I don't think they really understand the level of commitment that it will be financially. But yeah, I think friends and friend experiences really help me a lot.
Wow. Okay. So very interesting. So a couple things that we just heard from Jules that's very interesting. Not only is friends and families where she gets her information from, she's also using applications like Redfin and some other financial apps to get some insights. But what was the best part about what you said was, unless you're living in my area too, I can't really take your advice. If you're living in I don't know, Miami, Florida, you can't really advise me properly on, I don't know how much weight your advice carries. Is that what I'm hearing, Jules?
I mean, it's 3 times as expensive, I guess, as where my family is from. So
Got it. Got it. And so, okay, so let me throw this back at you. If you started to get some advice and some information from let's say your bank, say your bank was able to send you something that says, hey, based on what you're currently doing in your financial world, we highly advise you to take advantage of the current mortgage conditions and the housing market. Don't worry about today. I'm not saying right now today. Don't just imagine in the future, or maybe it was in the past. Would it be helpful for you to hear from a financial institution that you might have your money with, that there is an opportunity for you? Have you thought about this? And again, throwing the ball on your side of the court with no sales pitch.
yeah, I actually get emails from a place that I have money,
All right.
and I don't pay attention to them.
Interesting.
But I do, like, if it's something specific, like this is just speaking on my personal like experience, like I know there's probably great content, but I get so many emails that it's just as well that like even if I have an intention to come back to it, it doesn't happen.
Yep.
But like Kristen saying like webinar this date, this time, can you do it? And it's on the calendar. That for me is what has worked. And that's what worked with that realtor too.
Take a note. Take a note. This is so important. So what you're saying is, financial institutions, stop emailing me. Now, before I talk about the webinar piece that you just mentioned, what if they reached out to you through mobile, through text? Would that get your attention a little better? And what if it wasn't information, but a real action that is time sensitive? Hey, Jules, this is the position that you're in today, and there's opportunities for you. in this car or this house or
Yeah, I think also I'm speaking to say that like I know the emails that I'm getting are going to like a mass audience, but
right.
if it was like someone I had a personal relationship, like personal professional, like they're personally reaching out to me because of my personal situation, which they understand, I would be responsive.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So two things, everyone, two things. And you see my eyes looking up. I see the chat running. So that's what keeps getting my attention. Two things. Number one, emails don't work. Number two, non-personalized emails definitely don't work. And so if you're going to communicate with your customers, go direct, especially with this audience. They very much care about personalization and knowing that you're talking to them about their situation, not an overarching solution for anyone that may want to respond and be sold to, right? So let's stop that. Number three, this may be the most important thing out of what you said, Jules. If you're going to be sharing something that you want your audience to hear, maybe use the email to invite them to a webinar, educational, bringing people together, going back to what Eric said, going back to what Gabe said, going back to what you said earlier, Jules. Bring people together. So financial institutions, if you're listening to this, guess what? Webinars aren't just for us here in business world. It's also for your consumers. Bring them in, let them ask questions in a group environment where they feel safe and not that they're about to be sold something. All right, Eric, you're the last one on for this question. How do you consume information related to personal finance?
To be honest, anywhere I can get it. I would say like it's four main things. It's like, first and foremost, my parents, they're the longest, homeowners that I know. They know me personally. They're not going to lie to me about their experience.
Great.
And yeah, it's really great to just hear what their experience has been and how they feel about it and stuff, right? Secondly, my friends. I don't have that many friends that are homeowners though. I only have like really only a few. And one of them is really, really helpful. He's like definitely guided me through the process and like helped me feel like it's not as scary as it seems. The other one is a little more crazy, said it was the worst decision in his life. So I'm kind of right in the middle between those two. Thirdly, definitely, probably most importantly, my realtor and lender, they were, like I said, they held like that small focus group with several other people. And that was probably the most education I got crammed into literally 45 minutes to an hour. It was probably like an hour. And that was like, for me, the biggest leap forward out of anybody, even over my parents and friends. And then lastly, just the internet, just scouring things, reading articles, lots of blogs. And, there's lots of like, all my news apps are constantly telling me about like different real estate situations that are going on with the housing market and everything. So I try to take all that and do a survey and build my own vision, because what my parents know from experience through owning, I think that they also lack the context of where I live and the regional specificity there. They also don't know my personal tastes. I have like a little bit higher standard of taste. And that's where my friends come in and fill that gap, where they're like, hey, we know like what you want. We understand like that you want something very specific. And then lastly, like the lenders and the realtors out there obviously can tell me way more detailed information on the financial side and stuff like that. So I try to take all of it and build my own sort of vision of pros and cons with everybody.
Fantastic. And so again, there's this theme. You're going back to family. Okay, that's important. So everyone listening, don't just educate the customer you're talking to. Find a way to educate everyone in the family and have resources that your audience is going to go back to anyway. Give them some information. Hey, parents, here's some advice to give your kids when they come talk to you, right? So start coming up with different content, not just for your buyer, but for the buyer's influences. Okay. Again, you heard from everyone, friends are important. This is why we're now pushing this concept of financial friend. Add a financial friend to your circle of friends. Let the financial friend give you concepts, share it with your sphere of influence, and then make a good decision. Go back to that financial friend and make a decision. Groups came up again. You're making decisions from a group. Now, there's a really interesting question that came up in chat, and I got to ask this to you guys. I have a prediction, but I need to ask, and I'll start with you, Eric. And Kristen, did you see the question in there? I think so. I'll ask it. Eric, what is your favorite form of communication? Like, what is the most your favorite form? How do you want people to communicate to you?
I agree with what Jules said already. I would actually go for email just because I treat text like a little bit more of like a personal thing. I don't really like getting texts from businesses or anything, or
Okay,
people that I
interesting.
don't know really personally. I would definitely prefer an email only if it's personalized. I don't like getting blasted to from just some list that I know just, populated my name into a field. I really want someone who knows my situation and said like, hey, like this is, something you might be interested in. Like my realtor did that like 6 months later when we hadn't talked. And she's like, hey, I know we haven't talked in a while, but I saw these things that you might be interested in, blah, blah, blah. And it was really comforting to get that follow-up.
Got it. Awesome. That's very interesting. Jules, how about you? Favorite form?
I guess I would say the same as Eric. Actually, back to that same realtor. He's like my only connection to your world right now. But like he
Got to meet this realtor.
texted, yeah, I know he's pretty great. So he's texted and called and DM'd on Instagram and emailed. And he hears back from me usually via IG when I have a chance, or I'll just join. But like when he calls, like the first time he called, I didn't know it was him, and I was like kind of taken off guard that this realtor was calling me on my personal number. And so now I just like don't answer, and he leaves really wonderful voicemails, and that's fine. But like I agree, I kind of, unless I'm like actually like in a working relationship, I'm kind of not really needing to get that direct I guess reach out. But yeah,
Wow.
emails, I mean, I do see emails, so they work. And like IG is, I think, works too. Trying to think, other than that, like, yeah, I'm basically like email, Instagram, or I mess around on Redfin.
Love it. Okay, this is great. This is actually, my prediction was way off. Gabe, favorite
Um,
form?
yeah, I feel like there's like, I can see two different situations where I would prefer different methods of communication. Definitely like if it's a kind of initial relationship building, like communication situation where like I want this person to maybe hear from me my personal situation. I would definitely prefer a phone call because that's something that doesn't bother me that much. And in terms of like passing information back and forth, I feel like phone call can definitely be the most efficient. But to a certain point, like that's, once that's been done, unless there's some like new development, then email is for sure the most convenient way for me because that's something that I can do in my spare time and maybe check out a bunch of different pieces of information and respond if necessary. But I'm not, I think phone calls to build that sense of trust. Like I kind of want to be able to suss someone out at some point if they're going to be helping me with something this important.
Beautiful.
So
Excellent.
I think one thing to bring up here is that everyone wants communication cannot be in one bucket. Like you need to communicate in all different ways that are going to reach people in the most effective way. So, if you're talking with someone, you want to schedule a meeting with them, maybe text them, or if you're in the middle of a process and they need to send you one document, text them, hey, I need this one document. Or if it's a longer thing, send them an email. If you're in communication, you feel like it's personalized enough to have a phone call. But each of these things are really important to feel out and to understand that it's not a one size fits all for every single person. The other thing is on social media, as you've heard from Jules, that can be really effective. We have a lot of data that's showing also video content and vlogging is really effective. I just interviewed someone who has over 400,000 followers on TikTok and only talks about mortgage content. So people are consuming information constantly in different ways. And I think, you have to find out what works best for you that's really authentic to you as a provider, and also what's going to be best for and best fitting with the customers that you're working with. But just to kind of wrap up a couple comments here, I think the other thing that is also just all about personalization, which seems to be the theme of this conversation,
Yes.
just people want to feel that they are being given information and options to make smart decisions for themselves, so they feel empowered with the information and guidance from you, but ultimately they understand what the best path is for their unique position. So I think that's a huge takeaway. And just again, thank you so much for everyone who has contributed over chat, and for, of course, our amazing panelists and friends.
Amazing. Truly great conversation. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, audience, too, who's just kept growing and growing throughout the conversation and adding to it. And so, yeah, I love the recap that you just did, Kristen. And I love the different forms of communication that you all love to hear from, depending on the situation. So fantastic. Remember, trust is key, not just for this audience for sure, but for most audiences. Some of us have learned not to trust anything. That's the older generation that just is going to be skeptical. This generation wants to know that they can trust you. Once they trust you, they want to work with you, and they want you to help them understand what the next best steps are for them, and give them information that helps them make that decision, bring it into their sphere, get some feedback, come back to you, make a decision. This audience does not want to keep finding new people to work with. They want to find a trusted partner and then stay in that relationship. So, Kristen, thank you so much. Panel, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Next time I'm in LA, let's all go out to dinner. This was an awesome group.
Absolutely.
Thanks for putting it together, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.